Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. Everybody, to my independence reporter, we got a show for you today. We have a wonderful gentleman that is full of life. He's had quite the life when you go through his resume, which I'm about to do. His name is Danny Vann, and he's with us. He was born in, he was born in the 50s, just like I was. And he was the oldest of 6 kids. And he's faced many challenges in his life. He's a former trauma and foster care survivor and a prime example of how to overcome life's obstacles. He's been inspiring and motivating people for decades through his professional work. Yes, he was of note, and in Vegas and other places throughout Canada, he was a Elvis impersonator when Elvis was still alive. Mm-hmm. Which is a very unique position to be in because they could look at the real thing, and so he was very good at what he did, and he did that for a period of time. And he's a motivational speaker. He's worked in computers projects, and then as we all do, he faced a health crisis, which was open heart surgery and a heart attack. And then he decided in the spring of his life, somewhere in the 50s, to become a minister. And he became an ordained minister, and he's the founder and director of the Aging Out Academy, which we're going to talk about, and also his book that he's written, which is 99 Days of 100% Encouragement, and his journey. And we'll talk through his journey about being the shadow of the king. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And his story of hope and resilience. Danny, first of all, it's a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you, Kevin. It's great to be here.
I've been looking forward to this because you are one of those guys that if you stack up what's happened in your life, it really is quite extraordinary. All the things and all the places you've been, and all the people that you've met in your life, and in Vegas, and a performer in Vegas. I know that you probably have got stories that you're not allowed to tell here, but some folks, I think that was an affirmative. But you met some great people when you were traveling around as doing Elvis.
Yes, I did. I met some of the greats early in my life as well. I was in my still in my teens when I met some of the old country western greats, Ferland Husky, Tex Ritter, and some of those kinds of folks. Yeah.
You got to meet Tex Ritter.
And I did.
Go ahead.
Yes, I met Tex Ritter. I was a part of an opening act for a performance that he was doing for the sheriff passing. Oh, hang on a second. I have to cancel this. I beg your pardon.
That's all right. That's the president calling.
Yeah, I'll put this on mute now. There we go. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
And the president will call.
Yeah, I'm wondering why I'm still hearing something. Are you hearing that? No?
There's something in the background.
Yeah. All right, it finally stopped.
That was gone. So that's what happens when you do live.
When you do live, you get stuff. Things happen. But anyway, I was performing in my early. I got my first guitar when I was 16, and so at 17 years old, 16, 17 years old, I was asked to perform as an opening act for the country western stars that were coming through Michigan. Performing for benefit concerts for the sheriff's posse, because they did these concerts to raise money to help with families and programs and stuff that they were running. And so I got to meet Tex Ritter, and Actually talked with him backstage. He used to smoke one of those old pipes, those curly pipes, and stood there with his curly pipe smoking it backstage. And I asked him, I said, Mr. Ritter, I said, can you tell me the secret to success in entertaining? And he says to me, he drops his pipe and he looks down at me and he goes, son, music is a business. If you treat it like one, you'll be successful. And
that sounds like a really good piece of advice.
It was incredible advice for a 17-year-old who was wowed by music. To back up, probably 2 or 3 years, I was in an orphanage wanting to get a guitar and wanting to be a singer. And they brought entertainers into the orphanage that myself and my 5 siblings were at. It was St. Vincent's Home in Saginaw, Michigan. And these live entertainers came, a live band came and played for us. And I was just like, wow, these are live musicians and they're singing for me, And it was like, wow, I got to be around some live musicians. And after they got done singing, they came off the stage and shook my hand. And the
Like a real
incredible
person.
Yes. But again, you see a lot of these entertainers, they come, they perform, they get done, they run off stage, they go back to whatever until the audience is gone, then they clean up and leave. And you never used to be able to get in touch with them. Well, these guys shook my hand, and that really impressed me so much that when I got into my full-time entertaining, I literally would jump off stage. Even before they had wireless microphones, I would get a 200-foot microphone cable. I would jump off stage and I would walk through the audience while I was singing so I could shake people's hands. And I entertained for over 45 years. And Kevin, I did the calculation when I was writing my book, In the Shadow of the King. And I literally took that one handshake at the orphanage in Saginaw, Michigan. I literally shook over 10,000 hands over my career in all the concerts that I did.
And enjoyed every handshake.
Absolutely. But the moral of the story, the message to you out there, if you think a little thing that you do is not a big deal, that's a good that you think that, but do it anyway, because you have no idea what one little handshake can do to shake the world, because little things to somebody who doesn't have much are really big.
I like to say, be kind to everyone. And even if that means, especially at the grocery store.
And especially if they're either in front of or behind you.
Exactly. Or the checkout gal who is standing there all day long on her feet, and they have to hurt by about hour 7 or 8.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
And a lot of times nobody will say anything nice to her. And the next time, I implore everybody, next time you're at the grocery store, watch the behavior of the people around you when they're getting their check and when they're checking out their groceries. And you can see why a lot of the checkout people take an attitude, because nobody's nice to them.
Yeah.
So if you just be, and you might be the only person that they're going to get a smile from all day long, and make it be you.
Yep.
That's important.
Good. Yes.
That's really cool. Now let's talk about your start in life, because you mentioned that you were one of 6. You were the oldest of 6.
Yes.
And you ended up in a foster home, and you ended up in an orphanage for a long period of time.
Yeah. Orphanage was for about 1.5 years, and then the foster home was another 1.5 years. Prior to that, we were in what they call today kinship care. We were farmed out to various relatives for months at a time. So I figured it out. By the time I graduated high school, I had moved 15 times in my life.
And so it was a matter of the relatives that would decide they would take 1 or 2, or they couldn't take you all, probably.
Right. Yeah. There were 6 of us. Yeah. So the family, the parents got divorced. It was a violent divorce. There was violence before, during and after. And so back in the 60s, because it was in the early 60s when the divorce happened, mom's always got the kids in the house, right? I mean, that was just the way it was back then. And she didn't do a lot of working at the time. So when she got the house and the 6 kids and whatever alimony she got from dad, she went out and took a job as a short order cook and a waitress. Well, I mean, even today, people, you can't raise 6 kids and run a household on a short order cook and or a waitress salary, even with tips, and so it was a struggle for her. But even at that, you have to understand that mom got pregnant when she was 15. I was born when she was 16. By the time she was 22, she had 6 kids, right?
Oh, geez.
And by the time she was, what was she, 27 or 28, she was divorced, so.
And I want to remind everybody, in those days, when we're talking about the early 60s,
yes,
in those days, most women did not work outside the home.
No, and if you did, you didn't get paid much.
Yes. And so consequently, when the husband and the divorce happened and there was violence involved, and so it had to happen.
Yeah.
It was really tough for her
Yeah.
to be able to make a living and to make it work for 6 kids.
Yes.
And stuff. So, you can't fault somebody for that circumstance that they fall themselves.
None of this is about fault. It's just about observation, looking at this is what happened.
Right.
The other thing that happened as a result of having 6 kids and being, close to 30 and finally being free to some extent, you don't have the violent man standing over you telling you everything you can and can't do. Well, she never had a life because she was 15, and so now all of a sudden she's free. She didn't probably make all the best decisions on how to handle money and time and work with 6 kids. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so I'm being polite.
Yeah. Well, when you're 30, you're still in my mind, since she was married at 15, she never experienced being on her own. She never experienced managing her own finances. Her husband, I'm sure, did all of that.
She didn't get to have all the fun.
and she was stuck home with the kids.
Yep, exactly.
And so, and especially when there were 6 of you and she was so young.
Yep.
She was virtually pregnant from the time she was 15 to the time she was 22.
Yeah, two of my siblings are the same age for one day. They were just short of a year, and they're the same age for one day. That was that close. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I hope everybody is well. And growing up in that situation, it would be very tough.
They're all well. Are we all well adjusted? No. Are we all getting along? No. There's one of the things that I have discovered recently, and this is important because people look at foster kids, or they look at kids that come from broken homes as juveniles, as delinquents, as troublemakers, as problem children. And one of the things that I've learned in my recent research and investigation is that Dr. Bruce Duncan Perry just came out with a book, What Happened to You? And the whole premise is, instead of looking at someone like a child or even a young adult or even a middle-aged adult who has issues, instead of asking what's wrong with you, the question should be, what happened to you? What did they do to you? And here's where I'm going with that. You asked about, coming out of that, and are the siblings getting along? Well, I was about 9 or 10 when the divorce went down. My baby sister was only 5 or 6. Okay.
Yep.
And trauma interrupts the development of the pathways in the brain to the point where the brain doesn't function because it never had nurturing. It never had loving. It never had stability. It was interrupted. The environment was interrupted. Like I said, myself, I moved 15 times before I graduated out of high school. Every time you move, it's trauma, and changing schools is trauma. Having different reasons for moving was trauma. And so it messes with your brain. And the younger you are, the worse it is, because you don't know how to form words when you're 5, 6 years old to talk about what you're thinking or feeling or what you need, right? And if you're not getting nurtured and you're not getting all those quote unquote normal life things that are supposed to come with a healthy family, then your brain doesn't get wired correctly. And some people never really get it. The good news is it can be rewired. If you get that love, if you get that care, and you get that stability, the brain can heal itself. And so that's the good news. But all these people that are having these problems is, you hate to say it's not your fault, but here's a case where you didn't have the opportunity to grow correctly. And so those wires, there's gaps. You don't have connections in there.
Well, a couple things. First of all, a lot of times I call it the 7-generation syndrome, which is the sins of the father are brought to the son, and that happens with domestic violence. It also happens with people that when they're young, especially women, and they tend to have children when they're young, because that's where they're getting their love from, is what they think is and so a lot of times it could be your mom had you at 15, and your sister had your nephew at 16 or some stuff like that.
Yep.
And the cycle repeats itself until
Yes.
somebody breaks it.
Yes. I broke it.
You have done a fabulous job of breaking that, because that cycle is pervasive.
Yeah.
And it can go, and it invades people's thoughts and invades their mind. Right. And it can cause a lot of difficulty. And so first of all, I got to congratulate you, because you've done some remarkable things, and we're going to talk about some of those things that you are doing to give back to the community, to help people, especially kids. By the way, I have to bring this up, because you said the term juvenile delinquent. For those of you that may be under 40, you may have never heard that term, but that's what they used to call kids that came from a broken home, that might not be getting the guidance that they should have as they're growing up, and are failing in school, or they're stealing, or they're doing that. They were called juvenile delinquents.
Right.
They don't use that term anymore, but that's that's what they were back then. So if you were curious about what that meant, that's what that means.
Thank you.
Well, it's like in another previous show, so I said to somebody, and your Rolodex is really probably pretty full. So then I had to explain what a Rolodex is.
Yes,
because it's not like it's in your phone. And there used to be an actual a box that was called a Rolodex that all of your contacts were in.
Haven't they come out with a boomer thesaurus yet? I mean, I would think they got urban dictionaries. Don't they have a boomer dictionary yet?
No, that's because we're all dying.
We need to have somebody put one together for the kids.
Exactly. Terms that used to be that are no longer functional. Right. It's like so in any event, but so you get out of foster care, you're 18, you're 17, you learn how to play guitar. Then how did you come up with the idea of becoming an Elvis impersonator?
Always wanted to, even as a little tyke. Mom was a big Elvis fan, and so it was just I always wanted to be like that. And when I got my guitar, it was like first song I learned how to play, "Love Me Tender." And
love me tender, love me.
Yeah,
that one.
That's it. Yeah. So I did that, and it was just something I always knew I wanted to do. It's kind of like you hear from the Simone Biles of the world, and you hear from some of these other folks, you know, that have gone on to do great things. And it was like, that was me. It fit me, and I liked it, you know, and I wanted to do it. So I did.
And you know, the cool thing is that you still got hair.
Yes, there's still some up there. Yeah.
which you would need if you were going to be an Elvis impersonator.
Well, truth be told, in the late 70s up through the late 80s, I went and bought an Elvis wig because my hair is so curly, and I got a picture. There was a picture in our newspaper one time of a concert that I did, and they had a nice close up of me, and I got a look at what my hair looked like, and I thought, that doesn't look like Elvis's hair, you know. Later on, I found out that it didn't matter to the audience, you know.
Nope.
They got the persona concept, but when I got the wig, and one of my fans from the fan club actually made me a jumpsuit, so I had the jumpsuit, and I got the wig, and I had the jumpsuit, and I bought a pair of the sunglasses that Elvis wore in the concerts, and man, it went over well. People liked it.
Well, and according to your bio, and I'm sure it's true, that you played in Vegas and internationally throughout Canada and Nova Scotia, and all over the place. You were Elvis. Did you, when you were on stage? Because I in my youth I was an actor.
Okay.
And I would take on, when I was doing a role, and I knew it well, I would take on the persona of the person that I had created. Did you feel like you were Elvis when you were on stage?
That's a great question, because in fact, it was something that I made a speech about on all my concerts. After Elvis died, I stopped doing Elvis, and the audience, we were at a supper club, and I was performing with a show band, and I would do my Elvis periodically, and I stopped doing Elvis out of respect. It was like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore, you know. And they just kept calling for Elvis, and they kept calling for Elvis. And so finally I did a few songs and just got standing ovation for every song I did. And when that happened, I kind of relented, and I said, if that's what they want, that's what I'm here for. I'm an entertainer. And then it became a matter of keeping his memory alive, right?
Exactly.
Because this was 1977. I started doing Elvis in 1968. So I had already been doing it for 9 years. And so the first time I came out with a jumpsuit on stage after he died, I made a speech. I know I'm not Elvis. He can't be replaced. I'm here as a fellow Elvis fan to do a respectful salute to the person that I believe was the greatest entertainer the world has ever known. I made that speech. They gave me a standing ovation for that.
Of course.
And to answer your question about, did I think I was Elvis on stage? No. What I did do, though, was try to interpret what I thought Elvis would do with these various songs based on what I saw his moves in the movies. And I did get to see him perform live twice, right? And so based on all those clips, and of course, everyone has seen him in concert, you know, if you have anything to do with Elvis, they had the concerts to, you know, in videotaped and all that. I didn't have any of that. So I had to imagine what Elvis would do. And so I didn't really call myself an impersonator back then. I called myself an Elvis interpreter.
Ooh.
I would interpret, and I would leave room for me to be in there, and I would put my pieces in there. And I used to kind of make fun of it. And when I was doing interviews, and they'd say, well, what do you mean you're an interpreter? I said, well, I do what I believe Elvis would do during a song, but I leave room for me to be able to do it my way.
And of course, he wrote the song, or didn't really write the song, but
that was a big hit of his, and that's how he closed a lot of his concerts, was I did it my way. So, and Elvis was unique. He did things his way. So no, I didn't. And that was one of the things that the audience really appreciated. I learned over the years because I saw many Elvis impersonators. I went to different activities, different events and stuff. And these guys did try to. In fact, I was at the Detroit News on what would have been Elvis's 50th birthday. And so that was in 1985. And they were calling Elvis's. And back then, this was only a few years after he died. There weren't that many Elvis impersonators back then, right?
Right.
So they wanted us to all come to the Detroit news building, and they were going to take a group picture with us, right? Well, some of these guys, one guy showed up in a limo, in a jumpsuit, right? Walked in. He came in at the same time I did. Now, I was working in corporate America. I was a computer programmer at the time. And I was in a 3-piece suit when I showed up, and I had my jumpsuit over my shoulder and a garment bag, right? And my wig was, I had a wig case, so I'm carrying that. And this guy shows up in the limo, and I looked at him, and I looked at this, and he had not only a limo, Kevin, he had a bodyguard. And he gets out of this limo, and his bodyguard opens the door and brings him up to the front door and opens the door for him. And I'm watching all this. We get to the elevator, and we're going to go up to, I forgot what floor it was, 11th floor or whatever. And bodyguard pushes all the buttons. We get in. The bodyguard stands between me and him, and he's in the corner, and I'm there. I'm just thinking to myself, get over it, man. It's just, he's gone, and we're just here to have some fun, I brought my guitar that day, and I was able to sing a little bit, and probably about half of us were just guys, we're just there having fun, and we sang a bunch of songs. And and when they took the picture, my best friend made me this black guitar, and he put rhinestones with my name on it, Danny Vann, on the guitar, right on the body of the guitar. And so I had the foresight to wear a black jumpsuit because everyone else wore white. And I also brought my acoustic guitar. Nobody else brought a guitar. So they put me in the center of the picture on the front page of the Detroit News with my guitar that said Danny Vann on it. And
I just had a thought. Do you remember when Hearns fought Leonard, or it was either Hagler or fought Leonard, or one of those guys? I seem to remember a billboard with your name on it in Las Vegas. Is that possible?
No, probably not.
I mean, Danny Vann is Elvis.
There was a comedian in Vegas at that time by the name of Bobby Vann.
Maybe that was it.
And he was pretty big. He wasn't doing Elvis, but he was pretty big. But there was also at the Imperial Palace, which is where I performed, the Imperial Palace and at the Frontier. There was Legends in Concert, is the impersonator troupe that had Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, Elvis, a couple of the women. I don't remember if they had Dolly Parton or who they had, but anyway, they had like 8 or 10 impersonators, so that might have been what you saw, but it wasn't me. It must have been an impersonator.
Well, and there was a difference, I think, after Elvis passed away. And it's shocking to me that some of the best idols in the world, or musicians or folks that have had an impact, died so young. Elvis was one, John Lennon was another, and they've been gone, 50 years.
Yeah.
And and so
yeah.
But they're still recognized as being really, really cool folks. And I think that Elvis's legacy will go on for a long time. But I think with there were a lot of impersonators that after he passed away, and they would be impersonators rather than interpreters, or rather than folks that were trying to be true to the actual Elvis rather than a caricature of the actual Elvis. Did you find that to be true?
Yes. Yeah, because they weren't there, and they all had different movies or different things that they saw that, and I was okay with all of it, because it's good music. Bottom line is, it was good music, and I liked the music, and so that's what I did.
Absolutely.
But then I moved on from it, because just like now Elvis, it was stressful to travel the road like that, and I decided not to do that early on. So I got a job in corporate America. But still, having come through all the stress that I did in my life, and genetically, the family had a predisposition for what they used to call hardening of the arteries. They now call arterial sclerosis. And I have advanced stages of it now, but stress makes it worse. Prolonged stress kills. At 45 years old, I had my open heart double bypass surgery. And then at 59 and a half, I had my full-blown heart attack, which was the end of all of my traveling, all of my career, so to speak.
Well, but the cool thing is about, and looking at your bio and the man that you are, is the cool thing is you can't keep a good man down, and you keep reinventing yourself.
Well, I want to give, I want to help. I want to share what I have with people. And that's what my whole career was all about, was, to be a good entertainer, even to be a good corporate employee, you have to give, you have to give up yourself. And that while I sat on the couch for a year and a half recovering from the heart attack, my wife was trying to encourage me, and I had been doing, of course, all my career, I did a lot of benefit concerts for kids and families, and muscular dystrophy, you name it. I was there doing a benefit concert. I wanted to help others. And while I was on the couch, the words from one of the boys' homes, because I went back and did some concerts for orphanages and group homes, and one of the directors told me, "Danny, you're so encouraging. Your story needs to be heard." And I just went, "Hell, who wants to hear about me?" And he goes, "No," he said, "these boys who have learned that you used to be one of them, and you're now in corporate America, and you're an entertainer and made it to Vegas." He goes, "That's encouraging. And the counselors are encouraged, and in fact, the whole program is encouraged to see that somebody that's where these kids are right now could make it to where you are. Your story needs to be heard."
And when you performed, after you were done, I'll bet you $1,000 sitting here that you went in and into the audience. You went into the audience and shook hands.
Yes, I did. And I stayed until the last person in line got to meet me, and we sold pictures, and signed autographs. I did. I was the last person out of the building. Elvis left the building. I hung around.
As well you should. And and then you became a reverend. And
yes,
and
I always wanted to do that. So while I was down, I had started the program, but between a full-time job and entertaining, and then trying to take classes afterwards, but after the heart attack, I had all that time, so I finished it, and I got my associate's degree in theology, and then became an ordained minister.
And which did you write the book at the same time that you were down, or is this
yeah, I wrote the first book when I was down, the My Journey in the Shadow of the King.
Yes.
I've written 2 books, right? They're both on Amazon.
Right.
And My Journey in the Shadow of the King is a lot of what we just got done talking about, how I went through everything. I started out wanting to be like Elvis, and then the older I got, the more I realized I needed to be like the King of Kings, not the King of Rock and Roll.
Gotcha.
So that's my journey in the shadow of, quote unquote, the King.
And now you are founder and director of the Aging Out Academy.
Yes.
First of all, let's talk about the book 99 Days of 100% Encouragement. I love the
Yes.
title.
I love the book. It was so much fun.
And it's about 99 days of 100% encouragement.
Yes, it is. And where it came from is after the heart attack, looking for what I should be doing with myself, I wrote the first book, and I reached out to Dr. John DeGarmo from the Foster Care Institute, because my heart was to help kids in foster care that are coming out of foster care like I did, or even worse. Some had more problems than what I had, but I wanted to get to them, and I wanted to help them and be encouraged by my story, just like the director of the boys' home told me. So here I'm trying to heed that and get a hold of some of these kids and try and help them. You know what? I've been there. I've done that. You're going to be okay. It works out in the end, and you got to put some effort, but you can do it. I did it, And so when I met Dr. John DeGarmo, he mentored me for about a year. And during the course of that year, I saw that he had written about 10 or 15 books. He actually has had 60 foster kids come to his home over the years, him and his wife. And he also has adopted 3 of those. And he still has foster kids. And he created the Foster Care Institute to help train and support and be there to be side by side with foster parents. And there's over 30,000 people in his foster Facebook group now. And one of his books was called The Little Book of not encouragement, The Little Book of Inspiration, I think it was, for foster parents.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that book, I thought, well, wait a minute. Somebody needs to encourage the kids. I mean, yes, the foster parents might be encouragement, but imagine being in it, and going through it. So I thought a little bit about it. And so the very next phone call, I had like monthly phone calls with Dr. John. And the next conference call that we had, I said, I've got an idea. I said, you have the little book of inspiration for the foster parents. I said, we need one for the kids. And he goes, okay. He said, what are you going to call it? I said, well, how about 99 days of 100% encouragement? And he didn't even bat an eye. And he just went, I love it. Do it. And so it was like 6 or 8 months later, I actually did it. And I think he was surprised that I had done it, and it came so quickly, but it was there, and it's not all me. Probably about 45% of the phrases and things in there are Danny Vann, if you will, and my life experiences. But I pulled in stories from other foster people like Simone Biles, like Andrew Bridge, who wrote a book, Hope's Boy, and it was on New York Times bestseller list. There's 2 or 3 other people. I bring in stories from Mother Teresa, from Thomas Edison, Ben Franklin, Helen Keller, all these people that have faced diversity and circumstances and overcome them. And so each page in the book, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but it has a picture. Look, there's a cell phone on a beach. And guess what it says? It says, I am who I am, 411. Okay, so cell phone, kids know 411, right? Some call me crazy, others call me for advice. Right? So the whole book is all these different one page, but then at the bottom of every day, at the bottom of the page, there's a say it and share it exercise. So for the 411, I am who I am. Some people call me crazy, others call me for advice. The say it is, I will just be me today. I'm just going to be me today, right? And so share it with people around you when you go out into the world. You're going to say, what you see is what you get, me.
Oh, I just love that.
It's okay to be me, right? That's just one of the days. That's just one of the days. But there's, yeah.
That's one of those things where in our society right now, in a lot of cases, it's not okay to be me.
Yeah.
It's because you're taught to be something else.
Be
and
what
something that you
society
love.
wants you to be. Yeah.
Yeah,
Been an
but you got to
age-old
stand up.
struggle. Yeah, you do have to stand up for yourself. Absolutely.
And if you do that, good things will happen. And you're a testament to that, because you could have gone, it could have gone a completely different way when you were 17.
It could have. Yes, it really could have. And God was there for me. So God is in this book. If I know sometimes you can't say the G word, but I always do. Anyway,
You're allowed. You're allowed. It's acceptable.
yeah. And what happened is when I was very young, before the divorce, uh, uh, my grandmother, my mother's mother, I was the first grandchild, so we were very close. And she went to church. They were Catholic, Italian Catholics. So we went to church all the time. Grandma sang in the choir. I saw what a great place it was to be in church, and how she tried to be a kind person and good to everybody. And mom sent us to catechism. I learned the 10 Commandments early. So I had that with me and within me. And when I went to the orphanage, they dropped us off at a Catholic orphanage. And I literally, at the orphanage, I became an altar boy to help out with the mass every day. I literally went to church every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Literally for a year and a half.
Well, and being an altar boy in a good situation is a good place to be.
Yes, but had I not been that close with God and had God with me during all that, I don't know that it would have been a lot harder, and I'm not sure how it would have ended up, because a lot of those guys and gals that were in that orphanage had problems, big problems, but they didn't have the hope that I had.
Well, and I'm so glad that you are taking the time now to give that hope back to the kids
Yes.
that are growing up today.
Yes.
Because gosh knows, in the world that they are getting, they're going to need all the help they can get.
Yep, exactly. And that's what the Aging Out Academy's for. Is I've taken my life lessons, and frankly, over the last 2 years, working with Dr. John and learning about what's going on in foster care in the 21st century, I've learned a lot, and I wanted to bring what I've learned to light and to help share it with those that are going through it today. That's what Aging Out Academy is for.
And we, as a society, we really don't think about the kids that are 16, 17, 18 that are in foster care, have been for years, and maybe they've gone to 15 different schools in the course of that time. They don't have a chance to get well adjusted. And then they turn 18, and then we say, "You're an adult now. Have a nice day. Good luck."
Yeah.
And I think that's why your
Yeah.
academy is so important.
Yes.
Because does anybody really age out, or do they just transition to be an adult and they still have got stuff that they need to reconcile from when they were a kid?
There right now, as we're talking, there's over 450,000 kids in foster care in the United States.
You're kidding.
Right now. Every year, between 22 and 25,000 age out, and they're no longer covered by the programs. Okay. And they did move the age out age. Most states it's 21. Some of them as old as 24 for some parts of the programs. But these kids, there are as many different stories and as many different variations of how their lives went and are going as there are kids, because everybody's different. So you can't generalize, you can't stereotype. Some kids, like Andrew Bridge, for example, he's in the book, and he went on to become the director of the Child Welfare Institute in California. Okay. Others have gone on to be doctors. Some have gone on to be great gymnasts. So some people rise to it. Some people will cling to something in their life to become, and this is part of the message, not only of my books, but also of the Aging Out Academy, is find your passion. Find what you love to do. Find what you're good at. And if you don't know, guess what? There are free assessment tests you can take online, anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how intense you want to make it. And they're free, and they're in my at my website right now. I have a free ebook called Foster Youth Survivor Basics,
which is www. Surprisingly enough, DannyVann.com.
Make it simple. Make it simple. And it's a free ebook. It's right on the front page. It's like bluish green. It's got some people shaking hands, and it's called Foster Care Survivor Basics. And in there, I've got almost 3 dozen links to free resources to help foster youth. And some of them doesn't matter what your age is. For example, if you need a life coach or a mentor, there's an organization called UCU.org, YOUSEEYOU.org, and they'll bring you on as a life coach student or a mentee for nothing, no charge, and you can have a mentor for life. It doesn't matter how old you are. So if you need somebody to talk to, if you need somebody to kind of like bounce things off of, or you never had that father figure or that mother figure, they have people there. And I am one, by the way. I'm a mentor with that. And so there's all this, and it's on my website. I have things to help guide foster parents. I have things to help guide CASAs, caseworkers, and give them ideas to help connect with the kids, to communicate with the kids, to prepare them. There's a program called First Star program, which goes into high schools. And for those kids that want to go to college in foster care, they bring them through the whole program. They'll help them, and they'll pay for everything. They'll give them scholarships. So there's opportunities and there's help.
So there are resources for these kids.
Oh, tons of resources, but we can't connect with the kids. We don't know how to get through to them.
Because I was going to ask you that because to end up in foster care, I'm assuming that there was a horrific thing, an event or series of events that had gone on that young person's life.
Usually.
Is there a concerted effort to get them the therapy and the help and things as they're growing up that they're going to need through life?
In a lot of states, there are programs. Unfortunately, just like there's 450,000 foster kids, there's tens of thousands of foster families and foster parents who come in all shapes, sizes, and mentalities. And some are good at it. Some are doing it for who knows what reason. It's just like everything else in the world. It'd be a perfect world if there weren't any people in it, because people mess things up. I mess things up. Everybody gets selfish, or who knows? There's all kinds of things. But to answer your question, yes, there's programs, but somebody has to walk you through it. You also have to remember that when your brain's not wired right, you don't think straight, you don't act straight, you don't want help, you don't know you need help. You're just trying to survive. And when you get into survivor mode, there's another book, and I quoted Bessel van der Kolk in here in this 99 Days of Encouragement. I quoted him, and I did quote Bruce Duncan Perry. Bessel van der Kolk's book is called The Body Keeps the Score. And the whole premise, now both of these guys have done over 40 years of research on trauma in the body, trauma in the brain, trauma in youth. What does it do when they become adults? How long do you carry all this trauma with you, right? Is it repairable? How do you go about repairing it? And in The Body Keeps the Score says that even if you think that you're over something, when those circumstances arise again, the body autoimmune system kicks in. You go into fight or flight, even though I've been there, I've done that, I dealt with it, I talked about it, I counseled about it, but yet when it happens, I'm still there.
You can get triggered. You can get triggered and you don't even know how.
Yeah.
and it just affects you it can affect you in such a negative way. And that's why I was asking, is there help for these kids?
The short answer is yes, there's help. And there's two major moves that are going through foster care right now. And one of them is saying, you know what? We've got this stream of kids coming through foster care. What if we get upriver in front of the flood and start helping the families before they get so traumatized that these kids are going through this?
Oh, you think?
There's a movement called Family First, and
Yeah.
it's going on throughout the country. There is also a movement which is being led by iFoster, the small I Foster, FOSTER.org. And that's an organization that is former foster adults who are now banding together to go to Washington, D.C. and all the various government organizations and give their side of the story and make recommendations on how to help, how to not necessarily fix everything, but where the fallacies are today and what would help in the future to try and help turn things around.
Well, it takes a village, and we all have to work together to do it. And we're going to run out of time, but I have to have you back, Danny, because you are a wonderful guest, and I love your message, and I want to support it.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine how pervasive the opiate crisis is amongst our youth, and it's causing foster kids from parents that are quite literally dying.
Yes. Not only dying, but also getting into a place of neglect and abuse to support their habit, And so out at Aging Out Academy, I've got listings of these resources at my website, dannyvann.com. You can get to Aging Out Academy from there on the front page. I'm on YouTube with Aging Out Academy, and I have these verbal videos so that people can hear the story and hear how some of these things work and what you can do if you have a situation. I invite people to email me. If you go to my website, you can sign up for a newsletter that I put out monthly. I put out resources and links to both foster parents and youth and aging out youth. So there's just all kinds. There's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resources and opportunities.
What's really cool is that this has obviously become your passion in life.
Yes.
And anything that becomes your passion in life, you will succeed at.
I will work at succeeding at it.
Honestly, that's all you can do.
That's
is the best you can. And I applaud the man that you are and the life lessons that you've had that have led you to this, to where you can now turn around and give back. And that's awesome.
And if there's any agencies that watch this, I just delivered 600 copies of 99 Days of 100% Encouragement to the Just in Time for Foster Youth Agency program in San Diego, California. They purchased 600 copies to put into their program so they can give them to the youth. And I've got a couple agencies here in Michigan that have ordered copies, the Wellspring Lutheran Services and Big Family Home Services here. And these are programs that help not only foster parents, but transitioning youth. Just in Time for Foster Youth is a transitioning program in California, and they're going nationwide. So I'm pretty excited that they've decided to take this into their program. So,
well, you're doing well, son. Congratulations.
Yes,
it's pretty dynamic, and I applaud your work. And will you come back on and talk more?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to. Send me questions. If people have questions or concerns, let me know, and we'll come and get you some answers.
We'll do the best we can. Yeah,
awesome.
In a country like ours that has got such unlimited resources, I think it's a crime that there are 450,000 kids that don't have every advantage in life, and there's also 16 million kids that go to bed hungry. I think that's just a crime that's going on in this country.
And can I suggest what Dr. John has been pushing for many years now, is that the churches get more involved. James 1:27. James 1:27.
I could not agree more, because if you want to look at a Christ-like consciousness, getting involved in helping those that are the least among us is our highest calling.
Perfect religion, perfect spirituality is this, that you help the orphan and the widow. James 1:27.
And I can't thank you enough, Danny Vann, for being here. Go to DannyVann.com to get all the information that you need. And he'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm looking forward to that. Danny, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And
Thanks,
and
everybody.
get some rest, and don't have any stress. We need to keep you around for a very, very long time.
Yeah. All right. So my main message these days is be encouraged, people. Be encouraged.
Awesome. We'll see you next time, Danny. Stay right where you are. Thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of kmmedia.pro. Please visit our website, oddly enough, named kmmedia.pro, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to each other, because each other's all we've got. We'll see you next time.